Hello there. I wish to present to you my thoughts on the Madeleine McCann case and some observations I have noted. I also want to say that 2 weeks ago I had two separate dreams of Madeleine McCann. I've never followed the case. I myself know just the basics, that there was people looking in, someone seen carrying a child away, and this is the much I knew. And these random dreams, since I never followed the case, made me look into YouTube videos. I did not know that this case was also John Benet Ramsey case Mark II, that there's a lot of conspiracies out there. So I listened to what these people say. I do say that they too have left out key witness statements to slant the stories that point towards the McCanns. Anyhow, let's get to it. Number one here is, I wish to present, does anybody see anything out of place with this picture? This is the living room of the apartment where the crime took place. What I noticed was this curtain being drawn back. For me, this gives credibility that it was a intruder who did take her. For at one point of time he could have moved that curtain back to look out to see if anyone was coming. Also, it is not impossible that in Madeleine's room that he did open these doors, again just to look out to see if anybody was out there to see for his getaway. The next piece of information I wish to present is this bed. That the policeman, I'm not sure if this is going to show up good on my camera, but the policeman said this does not look like a abduction. I asked, what is he trying to say? Is he saying that Madeleine was never in this bed, they just made it up like this and said, oh, Madeleine has been abducted? But here is my observation. I'm not sure if you can see below this line, but below this line the bed is perfectly, there's no creases, it is flat. But above the line, which I believe is the average height of a 4-year-old kid who had been lying and sleeping and turning over, you can clearly see that the that the bed has had someone sleeping in it who turned over a few times. The next piece of information is this eyewitness account that this lady Jane, and I did dream of a lady called Jane. I do know a lady and she was in this dream. I'll explain it at the end. They say that this is not credible because these two guys did not see Jane walk by at 9:20, which she alleges she did. I say it is more than possible that she did walk by and they did not notice her. I myself knew a guy at church for, I'm talking 10 to 15 years, and he was the usher. He seated these people right next to me. So I was like 3 or 4 seats in, and he brought a couple right down next to me, put them next to me, and he was 1 meter from me. He did not even see me at church that day. He goes, oh wow, were you there, were you? And I said, yes, I saw you bring down the people and you sat them right next to me. I also say why it is plausible is that some people have got, selfish personalities, so it's all about them. So these two guys could have had a deep conversation. It may have been about garbage, but about themselves, and they were so fixated on themselves that they shut off everything around them. I have seen this as well. And I also say to other people, you have been, in a room and the person did not even notice you, maybe a workplace or something like this. I also want to stress that this is another part of the story which is, a tragedy. That Jane saw this guy walking away with a child at 9:20. They say that, after 6 years, not after, a few weeks or whatever, 6 years, a guy comes forward claiming, that was him, and they checked it out. As someone said on a YouTube video, was this guy living under a rock? Surely, if this was truly the case, that he would have come forward much sooner saying, no, that was me walking across the road. At that point of time, they could be mistaking for me. But it's ridiculous to think that after 6 years, yes, this gets sorted out. So that's where I think that is more suspicious. I also wish to say that the guy who was meant to check, and this is why in life we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do, he went and checked at 9:30 and he looked in and he saw the twins, but he did not bother to look at Madeleine. Madeleine could have been gone 10 minutes by this time. And because of the next check was due to at 10 o'clock, that, this guy had a 40-minute head start on the people, So that's a little bit frustrating to bear. And also say with this case that on other videos with the 7, that the night or the afternoon that Madeleine disappeared, that one of the friends of the family in the police statement said he saw Madeleine alive 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So all these videos want to leave that out. They want to say Madeleine died 3 days before this to spin their little story. Also the story of Robert, the interpreter, again suspicious because he wanted to do a good favour. He was brought in the first day and he just gave a brief statement about what he did. And on the second day, police looked into him more and they found contradictions and he changed his story, and so suspicion got put on him. But I also say maybe he didn't want to be thorough. Maybe he was just giving a brief account of that day because he did not think, I didn't do this, I'm just going to give a brief account, not knowing the police were going to go further and then he would have to go further. And I also want to say that, so these people are alluding that 8 people are in on this, that all 8 of these people are in on the Madeleine case. To me, this is preposterous. You cannot keep 8 people silent as far as I'm concerned. Surely a prosecutor could offer a deal. Oh, you did not do it, you know this, you're the witness, you've got immunity from prosecution. So this does not make sense. And I have seen other cases where the imaginations tend to run wild and people do make all sorts of crazy stories up, which is a shame. And again, so what I am saying, that one of the 7 did see Madeleine alive that afternoon in her pyjamas with the twins. And the next piece of evidence we give is they say, only Kate McCann's fingerprints was on this door, and I guess they checked the patio door as well. I also want to say, big whoopee-doo, a person can wear gloves, surely not, if they're going to abduct a child, break into a place. I also want to say that when the McCanns did keep going in with the checking of the children, the door kept appearing open where it was virtually closed each and every single time. To me, this proves that, with the witness statements, there was someone in and out preparing to do this act. That he did not have the right time. He still wanted to do it. He was in and out. He could have been in another room. There could have been also another person giving signals to someone is coming, or when is it clear to get out. Also wish to address these bloodhounds. To me, these are the most, you could say, damning to make the McCanns look guilty. Even I think there is a bit of suspicion with these dogs' behaviour. But I want to say firstly that one dog is a blood dog, the other dog is a cadaver dog. I was watching a show called Hunting the Zodiac, I think it was episode 3 or 4, and they're looking for the grave of Donna Lass. And in the show, they got 3 cadaver dogs. I'm not talking a blood dog and a cadaver dog, but 3 different cadaver dogs. And they said because in the past they've had false hits, even with 2 dogs, they've had false hits, but never with 3. So they got 3 in. So one downside is there was only 1 cadaver dog with this case. Number 2, we do not know, with this case, it's a holiday apartment. Did someone die of a drug overdose or was murdered previously and died and left on the side there, and nobody knows. So if it did pick up a cadaver, can they conclusively produce or prove it's Madeleine McCann? Also with the car door, again, it's a chilling thing that the passenger car door, the dog did give a hit. But it was the car that was rented 23 days after Madeleine disappeared. I asked, what about the car they had prior to that 23 days? Surely that car would be more scrutinised as well. Did that car give, cadaver dog odours? I do not know. So yeah, that is highly suspicious, and as I said, but dogs have been known to give false hits, even according to the experts. Next and last, I just wish, and then I'll go to this dream. So the McCanns. First off, I want to say that their body language. We'll talk about body language. I want to compare them to John Benet Ramsey case. That there was an interview with the Ramsey family, that John Ramsey was giving a stealth stare at Patsy as she was talking in the interview. People picked that up and found it strange. You know, that why would he do that? But when I see the McCanns, they seem relaxed around each other. They are not concerned about what the other is saying. I'm not saying that the Ramsey family are guilty of their crime either. You know, there are these burn marks that look like taser marks on John Benet, you know, so it is not impossible. I also say, comparing to another case, that is the Claremont serial killer here in Australia, that the family of the only body never found, that her family have gone out on the media still with interviews where the other families, they have their you know, their victims found and had a funeral, they don't want to talk to the media. So those who are looking for their lost child are the ones who keep coming out. And this is another example of the McCanns. They do keep coming out looking as if they are looking for Madeleine. They did know where she was, they would not be doing this. I also want to say, I don't know if I addressed this before, witness statements. I want to give another analogy to do with Owen Hart, the wrestler. He is a wrestler who fell to his death and died. But that day, all these wrestlers have got different accounts of different certain things to do with the case. Who was wrestling beforehand, who was going to wrestle next, who saw, you know. But what I'm saying is, they had no reason to lie over an accident. You know, there was no cover-up, no reason to lie. But it's amazing that people do recall things differently. So just because there's discrepancies, people do remember things differently for different reasons. But I do say, and another observation is, Jerry McCann was caught out lying, in my opinion. They did give their children something to send them to sleep, maybe so they didn't have to worry about them waking up and wandering off that night. Apparently that Kate addresses this in her book, saying, oh, the guy come along and drugged them, but that does not make sense. Because as if a person, oh yeah, I've got my drug medicine here, 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, all this time, wait till the drugs are set in and then carry off Madeleine. But if they had administered something, this explains why the twins were taken upstairs separately by strangers and not waking up and being alerted, and why Madeleine could be carried off without coming to and herself screaming or doing something. As apparently the night before, on the Wednesday night, that she said to her mummy, how come you did not come when we were all crying? But she could not relay what she was trying to say and was intruded there the night before as well. So I'm going to go to my dream from this point on. Also, I'll just address, when Jerry was asked, did he give anything to the children, he nodded backwards and forward like yes, and he touched his ear while saying no. And apparently that's deceptive. Touching the ear is a sign of lying. But I'm not saying they're doing anything bad. I was reading that people even 100 years ago had these potions they made up to get their kids to go to sleep. And I know that raising kids can be a handful. Busy people, tired people. I'm not judging them for it, even if it's true. So I'm sure they wouldn't give them more than what they, you know, they're doctors. I'm sure they'd be half responsible. Okay, let's go to my dream. As I said, I had never known the McCann case one bit. And I had these 2 random dreams. One was like 2 weeks ago and the other one a few days later. And I was so out of the left field, I thought, well, I'm going to look into this. I'm a Christian, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus. I believe the Bible says about, you know, people dreaming dreams. The first dream, again, this guy called Joseph, or Jose, however you pronounce it in Spanish, took Madeleine. But then it was my second dream that was very strange. That I dreamt I was in Portugal with the architecture. I dreamt of the McCann's apartment, like the number 5 was on the door. I don't even knew it was number 5, and the number 5 had fallen off the door. That was very strange. I dreamt of Jane as well. But in the dream, towards the end, I was at the ferries. There was the wharfs, the passenger docks, and there was this big red passenger boat that the bottom was painted red. And then in the dream, then I saw the McCanns, and they were standing behind a yellow and black tape. In Australia, police use blue and white checkered tape for their caution tape. And then in the dream, and it could have been 50 metres or 15, 30 metres, there came Madeleine McCann. She had grown up. She had a dark brown hair down to her waist. She was dressed well. And in the dream, that Kate broke through like the caution tape and ran and hugged Madeleine, falling down, hugging her around the waist. Yes, but in the dream, I'm not going to remember it all, but again, this boat, and that's when I googled Madeleine McCann and a red boat, and I do not know what this is all about, but this is on the Google search. There's someone put their lead detective, and the boat is painted red at the bottom. I do not believe I've ever seen a boat painted red before, and that was unusual. And plus Jane and the abduction. I do not know if the dream is just by weird chance. I'm not saying it's divine. It could be, and it might not be. But I do say the Lord has been giving me clues with this case independently. Maybe the dream is from God. I ask, was it a sexual predator who took Madeleine McCann? Or was it misguided people who wanted a daughter who took her and has raised her as their own, and there has been no harm brought to Madeleine McCann? It is also strange, again, I know nothing about the geography of the place. In the dream they say, you can get a ferry to Morocco, or this other ferry places, and it's strange that I dreamt of the ferry, and that could be also a part of the clue. Also, the Lord highlighted like a rich family to do with this case. Gave me, that is the future, a rich family. And the weird thing is, no one has to believe what I'm saying. That's cool. But the Lord has given me this gift where I see and hear things, and the Lord gives me these signals. It's hard to explain these signals. But for the first time, the Lord did highlight Jerry McCann and Kate McCann to me independently of each other. But the Lord gave me a new signal for both of them, and it was the same signal. And the signal was joy. The signal was like, it's hard to explain, but holy laughter. That is what it is called. If you don't know what that is, Google it. People think the Pentecostals are off their rockers, but we're not, anyhow. And the Lord gave me that signal. And I do not know why God would give me that, unless this story is going to ending with a good result. So anyhow, God bless everybody. Again, if you are the person by a sheer chance that you dictate Madeleine, you are to return her and set her free. Make a deal, say, don't dob us in. If you've done no harm, that is. And as I say, if your name is Joseph or Joseph, as I said, God knows what you have done or what you did. And hopefully you never did anything bad to her. And again, it was a misguided, you want to adopt a daughter by stealing her. Anyhow, thank you for watching, and God bless.